After back-to-back seasons finishing second in the MVP race, Joel Embiid just keeps getting better, marking statistical career highs across the board as the 76ers roll through their schedule. He continues to grow as a scorer, both on and off the ball, sporting one of the most versatile arsenals we've ever seen from a big, and his defense has been a lot more consistent, dominating the NBA with this two-way skill set. He's one of the most physically imposing players the game has ever seen. At 7 foot tall, 280 pounds, he's almost always the biggest and strongest player on the floor, yet he moves with fluidity that you would expect from an athletic wing. Not only can he change speeds and directions with impressive agility, but he's incredibly balanced, remaining in complete control of his large frame as he throws it all over the place, and his footwork is impeccable. On top of this unique physical profile, he also has some of the best touch we've ever seen from someone of that size, not just as a finisher around the rim, but as a shooter and ball handler. And the addition of wing-like skills to that blend of physical prowess and functional athleticism makes him a nightmarish one-on-one cover. He's at his best when facing up in isolation, whether that's from the middle of the floor, on the wing, or all the way out on the perimeter. He's lethal from a pivoted position, throwing together different combinations of jabs, shot fakes, and pass fakes to make defenders bite, where he's a multifaceted threat. The first is of course his ability to draw fouls. Over the last 3 seasons, he's getting to the line about 17 times every 100 possessions, which is the most of any player in league history, and he hits them at an 84% clip, creating massive issues for opposing defenders. They can't play with active hands or look for pokes because he'll swing right into the arm with a shooting motion, and falling for any of his shot fakes is a welcome to his trap as he'll absorb that contact. The reason this is so effective is he can rise right up for a mid-range jumper, and because he's so big, defenders have to be right in his grill to bother the shot. He'll create separation with the use of step backs or body bumps with that massive frame, where he's also a great difficult shot maker. To make things even tougher, he can explode off of jabs for dribble drives where he's a freight train going downhill. He rips through quickly with a pretty great first step that allows him to blow right by slower footed bigs, and if he's cut off at any point after building that momentum, he'll just use his body to bully his way to the basket. It's not just power on these drives though, there's also a finesse element to his slashing game, stepping through gaps with elongated strides or Euro steps, slamming the brakes to come to a halt for easier finishing angles, or attacking one way before spinning back in the opposite to carve out space, showcasing unreal footwork and balance from someone of so much mass. When putting the ball down like this, there's also the threat of a quick trigger pull-up jumper, which he's capable of hitting off balance while drifting in either direction. Most commonly, he's jabbing right before going left for these, as he prefers to load up from his left hip, unlocking his go-to move, the exaggerated left hip hesitation, into a pull-up midi. Even when he's going right, he'll often cross back over to that left side before pulling the trigger, showing off that ball handling ability as he leverages that downhill threat into easier jumpers. And that pairing of devastating drives or mid-range jumpers, along with his ability to handle the ball and create space for himself, allows him to attack with a live dribble from anywhere. He likes to start drives before spinning back into fades, initiating contact to create separation while gathering. He can also just spin right into them while keeping that dribble live, or fake it with a half spin, not just for jumpers, but as another counter to open up more driving lanes. Keep in mind that this is all when facing the basket, and when he turns his back and plays out of the post, he's just as effective. He's great at sealing real deep position in the lane, where his massive target and great hands make entry passing much easier on his teammates. He'll oftentimes just catch and go up right away with power, and for many defenders the best option is just to wrap him up and send him to the line, instead of giving up a layup. If this happens, they better make sure that foul is done correctly, because he will score through contact, generating a ton of and ones under the rim like this, and he'll draw more fouls by just throwing his weight around with aggression, initiating and forcing contact before selling it to get the call. With all of this power and physical dominance, he still has that finesse game in his arsenal. He can hit the turnaround fade over either shoulder, where again his size makes him virtually impossible to actually contest, and he likes to bring it to the middle for jump hooks across the lane. What stands out most though is his unreal use of fakes, pivots, and spins to create openings, very reminiscent of the great Hakeem Olajuwon with his agile footwork, except he's a lot bigger with more power, and that combination of size and agility allows him to generate so much force that he's just too physically overwhelming for most matchups, leaving him relatively unguardable by any one individual. The guy can create for himself out of any situation, whether that's in a perimeter isolation, facing up from the elbow, or with his back to the basket from every spot on the floor, and even when teams send doubles or extra help, he can still score through or over it without too much difficulty. As a result, he's one of the most prolific 1v1 scorers in NBA history. If we combine points scored this season from both perimeter isolations and post-ups, he lands second in the league at 12.4 a game, on a very efficient 1.06 points per possession. With that being said, he still has a lot of utility away from the ball, which has been a huge step in his development over the last couple seasons. At almost 8 points a game, he leads the NBA in scoring as a roll man, but he's not a traditional rim runner, hunting for lobs or late dump-offs around the basket, instead rolling hard and looking to receive the pass early for downhill finishes, and putting the ball down in the short roll for drives with momentum. He can also float to the mid-range for quick jumpers, or they'll use him as a screener in the pick and roll to set up easier attack angles, slipping aggressive coverages for quick post-ups, or floating near the nail against softer coverages for more space in isolation. Milwaukee's in that deep drop with Brook Lopez defending the screen, so Embiid just hangs around the top of the key and waits to receive the pass. Once he does, notice how much space he has to work with, attacking immediately with that signature left hip hesitation pull-up. For this reason, he always demands attention or gravity after the screen, making things a lot easier for his ball handlers, which he also does through his ability to pop all the way to the three-point line. Over the last 3 seasons, he's hit 37% of his wide open threes, allowing him to space the floor when needed, capable of knocking them down right off the catch or off the dribble, which really rounds out that third level of his scoring arsenal. In these spots, a big stride he's taken has been his willingness and success attacking closeouts. He actually starts building downhill momentum before even catching the ball, gunning out of the slot like a wing, and then defenses are back to dealing with the freight train that is his driving game, full speed ahead with the power, finesse, and finishing ability to just destroy a scrambling opponent. These quick attacks and decisions lead to just an average of under 2.6 seconds per touch, not even landing him in the top 200, and how he's able to play off of James Harden as an off-ball weapon has been a key in their success as a duo. Philly's offense has been very clearly at their best with these two sharing the floor this season, performing almost 7 points better than any other variation, and since they've become a duo, that number goes up to more than 10, showing phenomenal results despite many concerns that pairing a ball-dominant playmaker with an isocentric big would have its diminishing returns. A career-high 63.6% of his field goals have been assisted on this season, for a second place, also career-high 33.6 points per game, and an absurd 35.3 points every 75 possessions. He's doing it at 64.1% true shooting, yet another career high, giving him arguably the best scoring profile in the entire NBA. Scoring to this degree, with such versatility both on and off the ball, and from all 3 levels, demands a boatload of attention, and because he can still score so prolifically through doubles or added attention, defenses have to send help from everywhere, or just load up in unique positions, unlocking opportunities for others. Because he does most of his damage in the middle of the floor or painted area, he can collapse the defense seemingly at will, freeing up shooters all over. off the catch drawing 3 different defenders at the nail, which leaves a wide open shooter in the corner. He'll even occasionally make some cross-court finds or skip passes to quickly swing the ball, and if the opposing rotations aren't proper and disciplined, it'll free up cutters. And that's because his ability to shoot allows him to serve as a perimeter spacer, handling the ball while pulling rim protectors away from the basket. From these spots, he can get into perimeter isolations or initiate dribble handoffs, which clears the lane for off-ball action going at the rim. Recognizing these openings and quickly processing the right play has been his biggest improvement, coming off a pin down towards the elbow, where a second defender rotates to take away the mid-range, which he takes advantage of with an interior assist right off the catch. He's still not super proactive or anticipating at a real high level, but capitalizing on smaller and smaller windows, which is very noticeable when he's playing out of the short roll. Forcing him to be a decision maker used to be a strategy, but now he can extend advantages created at the point of attack at a much higher level after exerting that downhill pressure. Here, catching the ball at the free throw line and faking the mid-range jumper to freeze this defender for a no-look dime to Maxey in the corner. He loves to fake scoring attempts or shots by going through the motions before whipping passes like this, isolating from the top of the key with a drive, recognizing that Conley is coming over to help as he spins, and using a mid-range fade to disguise his fastball to the wing. Here's another pick and roll meant to get Embiid in an advantageous position against Lopez and drop, and after a series of fakes and jabs, he flows into a pull-up jumper that 3 different Milwaukee players contest, leaving the dump off unattended. I still wouldn't say he's skilled enough as a playmaker to be a championship level initiator or true passing hub, but he exerts so much scoring pressure that he's still capable of creating a great volume of opportunities for others, while still being strong enough away from the ball to allow those initiators to thrive. And to me, that combination is enough to make him a strong All-NBA level player on offense alone, with a healthy argument at being one of the best 8 or so players in that regard. What takes him to another level though is how elite he also is on the other side of the ball. Before we get into that though, I want to give a quick shout out to Basketball Index for helping with this analysis and the making of this video. If you're not familiar with the site, they provide tons of statistical measurements, tools, and easily accessible graphics to further guide your understanding of the sport. They offer talent grades on pretty much any aspect of the game you can think of, and through their player profiles tab, I can easily compare them to other players around the league. Using Embiid's finishing as an example, on this page I'm presented with various metrics detailing his ability to create and make these shots, along with how he stacks up against his peers. This is just one of the many useful tools found on the site that help guide me and many others through their analysis, and by signing up with the code VENUE30, you can get 30% off your first month subscription. I'll leave a link in the description below for anyone interested in signing up, and with that being said, let's take a look at Embiid's defense. He's one of the league's best drop bigs in the pick and roll. I earlier mentioned his massive frame, one of the biggest guys on the floor at all times, but he also has a 7'5" wingspan that he uses to just eat up space in the lane. He's incredible at positioning himself, where his sheer interior presence does a great job at deterring attacks, at times even taking away rollers entirely. He forces ball handlers to live in that longer mid-range area, although he does have a tendency to be a bit overly paint-bound at times, which can hurt against stronger pull-up shooters. Much of this is to conserve energy though. Consistent effort, especially in the regular season, has always been a question mark, but when locked in and engaged, he does a great job at taking this coverage higher and using more of his mobile gifts. For someone of his size, he moves extremely well, with flexible hips that allow him to turn and change directions for high-level plays, and some quick hands that help him take away passing lanes. This doesn't necessarily mean he's someone you want switching onto the perimeter or defending in space with more aggressive coverages though. Keeping him as close to the rim as much as possible squeezes the most value out of him. That's because when the ball does get there, he's one of the league's best rim protectors. His timing is incredible, and he's got that short area burst needed to quickly slide over and meet attackers at the rim, which makes him a strong shot blocker. He's also a super quick processor, recognizing threats very effectively and rotating to turn them away, like here where he realizes that Atlanta wants to run this possession through Collins in the middle, so he communicates a switch that allows him to get directly involved and force a tough look. To top it all off, he's a great defensive rebounder, closing these stops, and being such a strong paint defender, both in the pick and roll and as a helper, allows him to successfully anchor weaker defensive units as a floor raiser. Right now, Philly has the 4th best defense in the NBA, even with him missing time, and over the last 3 seasons, they have a 109.8 defensive rating in games with him, falling to a 112.3 without. This 2.5 point swing is pretty standard for high-level, all-defensive players, and he's shown on multiple occasions that he can turn it up to another gear come playoff time, which I think lands him somewhere near the top 5 in overall defensive impact. And when paired with his vast offensive arsenal, metrics meant to capture on-court value view him as one of the better players in recent NBA history, which is enough for me to label him a strong MVP level player, putting together one of the best big man peaks we've ever seen. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn my post notifications on to be first on more content. If you're interested in my more in-depth research, make sure to check out my website and social media profiles. You can find those links in the description. Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you think of Embiid and just how good you believe he is. As always, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.